Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check this one out. We're going to talk with Molly Ellmore about the Petrodollar out in the XRP ledger in Cataclysmic event and DeFi. You know it. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. If you haven't done it, check out my sponsor, I Trust Capital. The only thing better than getting crypto is getting tax-free crypto, which you can do with I Trust Capital and crypto IRAs. Roll over your 401k, TSP, 403b, 457, and so much more. And check out the staking, which is now live. Yeah. 9.5%. Click the link underneath the video. Now let's get started with this video. Shout out to Molly Ellmore for a great conversation. Here we go. The funny part about all of this is when I talk about 4 or 5 digit XRP, well, I got that from Arthur Brito, the co-creator of the XRP ledger, who designed XRP to $10,000. Those are his words, not mine, right? So, David Schwartz's dream scenario is a catalyst like what we're watching unfold right now. I just made that video. I happen to firmly believe that we're watching the systematic disassembling of the petrodollar with BRICS and Saudi Arabia and all these things. And it's 100% coordinated with the U.S. because they all know that there's a problem with the money and the overprinting and the petro recycling issue of the petrodollars, right? And the bonds and all of that. So I believe all of this is systemic. And I even went all the way back and highlighted 2020 when oil went negative for the first time in its history. And I pointed out that I believe that was the administration Trump at the time showing the OPEC and the world leaders in the oil world then, see that right there is my example to you that I don't need your oil and I don't need the petrodollar. We're going to go ahead and do what we're going to do. And it was really showing the cabal and the cartels of the world that have power in those areas of resources that is not going to serve going forward. I just proved it to you, right? So I think the new commodity is XRP. I think the new commodity is the decentralized ledger itself and the utility that comes from it. And I think what we're watching is the systematic disassembling of the petrodollar and moving to these new market infrastructures of payment rails. And as the old adage says, he who controls the gold makes the rules. Well, he who controls the payment rails runs the world, right? So,
yeah, great point.
So really, that's what I see taking place. And this honestly is a 10 to 30 year shift because that's how long it really started with the pound and taking the pound out and bringing the dollar in. It really, if you go back and dig, and I know you do your research, you'll see if you don't already know, but it started back in 1914, when the U.S. really started to go after the pound and get the U.S. dollar rolling. And then it was the World War II. We had more gold than everybody, right? And then we could rebuild. And then, obviously the Bretton Woods, how it unfolds from there. But that was really a 25, 30-year transition that took place, and the last 4 were what most people focus on, right, was, before Bretton Woods and then World War II is really like where they focus on. But there was really a great, push to become that, to even be in a position to challenge it by the time World War II had happened, right? So, and the aftermath thereof. So, I think we're watching that happen again. Right now, we're at about 70, slightly over years, as the global reserve status. 100 or 104 years. Is it 94 or 104 is the average? When you go back and look at the other 5 countries, Portugal, Spain, France, Netherlands, and you look at those countries that actually enjoyed the global reserve status at one point with their dollar, the average lifespan was 94 years. So this is the time that transition would begin to take place. Because we're talking about technology and it being a very controlled decision, I believe that, it could happen in half the time. So maybe 15, right? So, but I also believe in order for that to happen, and I just literally just made this video, it has to be a payment currency first before it can be the bridge currency to the world, right? It has to prove itself at a lower level. And Jim Rickards talked about this. I just literally played the clip in my video where he was like, payment currencies will be used before the global reserve currencies ever challenged. And that's how you get to a level where you can rise up and prove out, develop the deep liquidity to get to the level to challenge the US dollar, to alleviate the spillover shocks and the stress of being able to sit beside something like that. And at that point, I believe you're not really seeing the rise. What you're seeing is a leveling, right? Because you're going to see that if they have it their way, it's a slow, gradual relief. So there's not this just dramatic, that's what it is tomorrow morning. You know, I don't think we see that unless there's something absolutely cataclysmic that takes place and forces the issue, you know, but it's just me.
No, and you brought up so many great points that you don't just wake up and one day there's a new global reserve currency that no one's heard of. Exactly. It has to get test drove and be a payment currency, to have trust in it. Like, the whole idea of reserve currency is that you trust that it's a good place to store value. But like, if I park my money here, bad things won't happen, that it's going to be stable. Maybe at best it like goes up a little bit. And you wouldn't just do that and that's why I think Bitcoin is a tough thing, is like, people aren't really using Bitcoin for payments. I mean, drug dealers do. Like,
it's too volatile.
It's slow and it's expensive. I mean, imagine if you had a company of 100 people, every time I do payroll, I have to pay like $1,000 in fees. Like,
that dog don't hunt. You know what I mean? You know, that dog don't hunt, as they say up here, not my neck of the woods, right? So it's like, yeah, and you know, to that point too, it's like, when I think about this, where XRP is going, what it's designed for, what it's doing, what I think about is like, why would they use it anyway, right? Because here's the other thing, and I mean, to the point that I would make people sick of it when I was first starting my channel. There's always been this rub throughout the history of XRP and my relationship with it, and certainly now because of the case. I have made, and I don't know if you're aware of this, countless videos about the idea that XRP is a security and that it is a bond. Because what the global reserve currency provides isn't cash for people, it's bonds, right? And the truth is that a bond can continue to grow in rate and size as people continue to adopt and use it, right?
Right.
And the other part of it is it makes it jurisdictionless, right? Just like bonds are being used for U.S. treasuries and all these things that are being used today. But the problem is that XRP does move in value, right?
Right.
Well, why in the hell would I use it then? Why don't I just use all the other things that fluctuate every day?
Now, a bond, though, is a loan, right? So I'm loaning the government money. They're going to pay me back with interest. How does XRP, how can it be a loan?
Because you have taken a position in the asset for agreed return. And that's where we come up with X pools. Your bond goes in a pool, and then the governments and the banks of the world get to use it out of that pool and then pay you a percentage for taking a position in it.
So I'm like renting them my money, and they're going to use it. Okay. So I guess I'm loaning them. So I'm the one doing the loan. Oh, it is. Okay.
You see what I mean? But now, here's the thing. As that proves out and gathers enough liquidity, then you have somebody come in like the Treasury and FSOC, which I talk about all the time, right?
Right.
Which does not need the congressional approval to come in and deem something systemically important. Here's another little fun fact. Who is the architect of FSOC? Michael S. Barr, the former Ripple advisor. He's the creator of FSOC, which has the ability to deem entities systemically important, and now the VP Federal Reserve Board or Governor, right?
So do you think the XRP ledger would be systemically important or Ripple?
I think the XRP ledger would be a public good because it's open to everybody. And
Right,
I think
okay.
RippleNet would become systemically important because it's a new version of SWIFT. I think Polysign is the depository trust clearing corporation in the new version that can settle more than $1.6 quadrillion a year. If you look at what they've been doing, they have been in the back end. They talk about it, creating market infrastructure, the plumbing, the pipes, what they've been doing. And I just put it in this video. They've been connecting the repositories of the world. So whether it's the DTCC, whether it's SWIFT, whether it's the central banking system, whether it's just small, medium enterprises that do global business, whatever it is, they built the plumbing to it. Right? And I think they did it to the G7 and the G20, the largest economies of the world, and their central banks and governments. Right? So essentially, what you're looking at is someone who understood to build within the system, because a revolution comes from within, not from without. Right? So now you have it all built within, and you rebuilt the better version of SWIFT because SWIFT is being obfuscated, because that's what BRICS is, right? Then you have Polysign, which is really to settle all the derivatives more cleanly and efficiently in T0 time than the DTCC can, with the project ION and everything else that they've got, right? I think all of that ties right into Polysign. We don't know it yet.
You think Polysign is far more than just custody? It's actually
100%, because Jack McDonald himself said we are helping to tokenize the capital markets. Well, what does the DTC settle? The entire capital market system. Right? So I see all this major infrastructure that has been built to wholesale handle the back end, because they're not consumer facing, Ripple or XRP, really is the way it's been told to us. Right? So interestingly enough, when I think about all of this, what I see is that they have rebuilt the back end of the system to handle the large movement of value and money within the financial system. The whole, Coca-Cola's got a token and this one's got a token for Sears or JCPenney or that, that's all consumer facing horse shit. That's low hanging fruit, right? That stuff that it's meaningless to me, right? Because it doesn't matter, right? To me, it's that back end infrastructure. It must be in place before they can actually have real consumer adoption. Because if you don't have it in the back end, you can't organize the liquidity to be able to do anything on the front end, right? It's like I can't have you all hipped up with a fancy user face app and then you're using this fancy token, but then I got to go to 1973 technology when you get 2 layers below it on the app, and I'm right where I was before. So this, to me, and listen, and if I'm wrong, I spoke to the home and they're going to take me back. Who knows? Right? Because if I'm wrong, I'm going to lose my mind and stare out a window with a shaky hand for the rest of my life. It's like it's not going to be good for me. But I believe that this is somewhat close to accurate, in some way or another, because you can't do anything consumer on the front-facing side until the wholesale end has been fully put in place and connected.
And the reality is that payments and settlement, it's a bank thing. Like, you and I don't settle our bills. Like, I pay my bills through a bank. I pay my employees, or I get paid by a company through the banking system. Like, the peer-to-peer payments thing I think is cool, but people don't use PayPal for everything, right? Like, I'm not paying and even PayPal still uses banks. Like, I'm not using my PayPal credits to pay for stuff. I'm generally getting it into so I agree with you that this has to be done at the bank level, because that's how payments, and as long as we have banks and we are putting our money in our bank, we're getting paid in fiat by employers or whatever, you still have to operate within that system. So
I completely agree with you. And, and I do believe, with that being said, DeFi, I believe, will be the next iteration of banking and finance. I absolutely believe that, right? And you're going to see Bank of America white label things someday, possibly like a Flare Networks or some other DeFi platform that rises, to the level of usage, whatever that may be. I certainly believe you're going to see those things because they can make so much money on a decentralized platform where they're just charging for the transaction in and out. They don't even have a person there. That's going to do it for me. Make sure you leave a comment underneath. Not financial advice from me or Molly or anyone else. And shout out to Molly Ellmore for an incredible conversation once again. I'll catch all of you on the next one.